Okay, let's have a little look at what I would consider to be the bag maker's basic kit. Now, this is going to be very much my own personal preference, and every bag maker will come up with something different that they would consider to be the essentials for a basic kit for a new bag maker. But these are the things that I think a new bag maker really should have in their stash. So let's start with the very first thing, and that's a woven fusible interfacing. In the UK, we've got G700, which is a violin product. We also have various generic woven fusible interfacings, and people like different things, whether you like the branded product or whether you like something that's generic and a little cheaper. They are all fractionally different, but they do the same job. But a woven fusible interfacing is essential, I believe, in bag making, because nearly every bag pattern that you get will use woven fusible interfacing on both the exterior and the lining panels. So, you know, it gives the bag strength and durability. It makes the fabric easier to sew, stops it warping at all. In my opinion, a woven fusible interfacing is essential to have in your supply list for bag making. Next, we'll move on to fusible fleece. Now, for those of you that are wanting to make small pouches or drapey bags, so the sort of thing like a hobo bag that's got a bit of drape to it, so it's a soft, non-structured bag, but you need something more than just 2 layers of cotton, so the interior and the exterior panels. Fusible fleece is the way forward. This is Violin H640, and it's approximately about 3 or 4 millimeters thick. It's fusible, and I use it for pouches, I use it for makeup bags, I use it for, say, slouchy sort of hobo bags, soft bodied bags. And I think for those of you that are starting bag making and don't want to use the heavier foams, this is a great alternative to start with. And a lot of patterns call for fusible fleece rather than foam. So this is something that you should, I think, have in your stash also. I've not really come across many generic versions of this. There are lots of brands of it, but never found anything that's sort of an unbranded version that works as well as the branded. So you may have to just buy the real stuff. And I've just got a small sample here. This is for those of you who are feeling braver and have picked a pattern that uses foam. So in the UK, we do have different sorts of foam. I prefer Swivel foam, which is a Violin product again. It's about 5 millimeters thick. It sews well. It's designed to be sewn. There are alternatives. Bosal in our foam is another alternative that's available in the UK. In fact, the American Pellon foams are also available in the UK, but they are cost prohibitive in so much as they're imported. So you're paying for the import of those things, whereas this stuff is a British product. So I'm not actually sure it's manufactured in Britain, but it's a British product, so it's cheaper. So foam is for those of you that have kind of moved on from the sort of shopping bags, so the basic bags that you might make to start with to get a feel for how you do things, and you want to add structure to your bags. You want standy uppiness, so you want your bag to stand up when you let go of the handles rather than fall down flat, and that's what you need foam for. I would say that this is probably not a first time purchase, so if you're just literally starting your first bag, foam probably won't be on your list, but I promise you, once you've made your first bag and you're really proud of it, it won't be long before you need this. So those are the 3 main stabilizers and interfacings: woven fusible interfacing, fusible fleece, and a foam. The other thing that you may need at some point in the future is this. It's a plastic mesh which is used for bag bases. Now, I use this because I've got it, but you can use lots and lots of other things. It gives the bag base a nice sturdy bottom. We all want a nice sturdy bottom, don't we? I'd love a nice sturdy bottom. It's been a few years. It's used for making nice firm bag bases. It's the same stuff as kids used to use for sort of cross stitch at school for practicing sewing. It's quite stiff and it works really well for bag bases. There are alternatives. You can use plastic cutting mats that you can buy from IKEA or from eBay, which I do use because this isn't actually that cheap. I buy this from China, so it takes a long time to get here, but it costs a couple of quid for a whole sheet, and I don't use it that often, so it's useful to have, but not an essential. So let's go on to hardware, the basic hardware. And if any of you have started looking through some of the hardware pages on Facebook, you'll see there it is so much stuff to look at. But I think it's easy to get completely carried away and bankrupt yourself buying things. I think I'm just going to go through what I consider to be the essentials. So, magnetic fasteners, something to do your bags up. If your bag has a flap, rather than going straight in for a twist lock or a turn lock or a thumb lock or any of the fancy locks you get, which aren't as easy to put in as they might at first appear, one of these is the essential, easy to fit way to close your bag. You've got the male and the female part, and they usually come supplied with 2 washers. They come in 2 sizes, 18mm and 14mm. Most bag patterns use an 18mm, so 14mm are only really used in smaller projects like purses and wallets, where this is a bit too bulky. Now these ones, you can see that this side is actually quite chunky. You can get some that are slimline ones. They tend to be a little bit more expensive, but these are cheap. Usually you can buy a pack of 10 for a couple of pounds. So worth having in your stash. Magnetic fasteners. Right, let's have a look at these. These are D-rings, so they are, you can see, D-shaped. There's a clue in the shape for the name. However, these are can't see that. These are 2 pieces of hardware that were purchased exactly the same size from 2 different suppliers, and I think you can probably see the difference. This one is lovely and shiny and chunky. This one is not. There was a difference in price, and often it's difficult when you're buying online because things are photographed up close and you haven't got anything to compare them to. This one came from wish.com, and whilst I don't like telling anybody not to shop anywhere, if you want quality hardware, wish.com is not the place to go. You know, if you're going to get 10 for 90p, that's a good indication of the quality of what you're buying. So buy as best quality as you can. Look at our suppliers list and go through there rather than doing the sort of the wish.com thing. Even Amazon can be a little bit on the hit and miss side, but D-rings are an essential. If you want to add a strap to something, you'll need strap connectors, which will usually take a D-ring, and they work with the strap then connects using one of these, and we'll look at those in a second. So there you go, that's a D-ring to connect your strap. Sometimes used as just an ornamental feature on a bag. I've done that before now. But with hardware, buy quality, the best you can buy, best you can afford. I would suggest in the first instance buying 1-inch hardware, so 25mm hardware, because that's generally what's used on most bags. If you've got a supply of 1-inch hardware, you can then perhaps enlarge it so that you've got 1 1/4, 1/2 inch, 2 inch. You won't very often find bags with 2-inch hardware, but it does happen. But 1 inch is my go-to. I've got everything in 1 inch just because I know that way I'm covered for most things. And I would suggest you pick one colour and stick with it. Now the silver or chrome or nickel finish or whatever they like to call it, you can find that easily. It's generally a little bit less expensive because it's not fancy. You can get these things in so many different finishes, antique gold, brushed silver, rainbow finishes, various different finishes, and a lot of the finishes make them more expensive. If you're just starting out, stick to one colour and buy everything in the same colour, so you know you've always got things that match. So there you go, those are D-rings. And D-rings go with swivel clips, sometimes called dog clasps. And again, swivel clips, it's about the quality. 2 swivel clips purchased separately, both in gunmetal, and you can see this one is lovely and shiny and sturdy and beautiful. This one is wobbly, flimsy, and not actually, when I rub my fingers around I can feel little sharp bits on it. It's not actually particularly well finished. Again, buy the best quality you can afford. Swivel clips are used on the end of a strap to attach a strap to a bag. So if you've got a crossbody bag, something with a long strap that goes across your body, ideally you need D-rings and swivel clips. However, you may wish to go with rectangles. And rectangles mean that you can often miss out these two, so you can use a rectangle instead of these two. Again, look at the difference. Quality, quality, quality. This is lovely shiny. This really isn't. Wish.com. I don't know why I keep doing it. I see these things and I think, oh, middle of the night, might have had a gin or two. Oh, hello, that's a bargain. It's not a bargain if you can't use it. In fairness, I do use these when I'm testing patterns, when I'm playing with ideas and experimenting. I'll use one of these because I know that I can just chop it off or throw it away. It's not a big drama. If I'm making a bag to sell, then quality hardware is definitely the way forwards. I'm not going to suggest where you buy. I'm going to suggest where you don't buy, because we've got a hardware suppliers list and you need to go through, research what you want and look to see what people are selling at a price that you can justify buying. Buying in bulk is always better than buying one-off. So if you're making a bag and you just need 2 of these and a magnetic fastener and a tri-glide or something like that, it's going to cost you a lot more to buy individual pieces than it will to buy perhaps a pack of 10 of these or 20, whatever you think, whatever you can afford. And it is about affordability. Bag making is not a cheap hobby. So rectangle, they're sometimes called rectangle rings, which is ridiculous because they're not rectangle rings, they are rectangles. And then to go with your rectangles, we have a tri-glide or a slider. Now these come in 2 different styles, and I haven't picked up one of the other styles. This one's got a fixed centre bar. Some of the others have a movable centre bar. And this is to make your strap so that it's adjustable. So if you have a crossbody bag and you want to make an adjustable strap for it, you will need one of these. Again, come in all the different finishes, and again, different qualities. So, you know, get what you can afford. And I like to buy all together so that you know that it matches. You know, these all match. There's nothing looks worse than when you're making a bag and you realise that your hardware doesn't all match each other. That's particularly evident when you're using gold, because there's so many shades of gold. Different suppliers will, their gold is just different colours, and it looks tacky if you've got a bag with different shades of gold hardware, especially if you've got 2 pieces that are next door to each other. Now the rectangle rings are often, or rectangle connectors are often used on a bag that's got kind of a handle, so it will be used to attach a handle as opposed to a long strap, although I use them occasionally to attach long straps. So I think for me that's the basic hardware. The other things that you probably want to include are some number 3 dress zippers. Perhaps, I mean, I tend to buy packs about 8 inches long. So you get 10 8-inch long zippers for not very much, in different colours. Those are perfect for your internal pockets in bags. Zipper on the roll, size 5, I tend to buy, and I would suggest if you're a new bag maker, perhaps buying a few meters of the basic colours, so you sort of black, grey, cream, but colours that will go with everything. You can expand your collection once you've started once you get more confident using those things. Buy your zipper pulls at the same place as you buy your zippers, so that you know that they'll fit. The other essential for bag makers are clips. Now, we call them wonder clips, and Clover do make wonder clips. However, I don't think many of us who are bag makers actually use Clover. We buy generic ones from eBay, from Amazon, or directly from AliExpress from China. You will never have too many of these. Even Aldi's do them in their sort of, when they do their craft thingy. I think it's £2.99 for 10 big ones, something like that. These are Aldi's ones. I'm not too proud to use Aldi's. I'll use whatever I can get at the price I want to pay. I think these were Amazon. I've had these a very long time. They're slightly bigger than the sort of smaller ones. And these are knockoff Clover. If you're going to be a bag maker, you are at some point going to have to embrace the clips. As a non-dressmaker, I've never really used pins. And when I was coerced into making a shirt for my husband, my mother, who was guiding me, thought it was hilarious that I'd fitted the sleeve using clips, because that's what I had and that's what I'm familiar with and that's what I'm comfortable with. Clips are an essential part of bag making. So if you go shop around, because you can get them cheap enough, but don't be thinking 10 will be enough, because it won't be. You'll need a big box of them, perhaps 100, because the more you have, the better your finish will be. And that, for me, is what I think are the essential things for bag makers. So we have magnetic fasteners, we have D-rings, we have swivel clips, we have rectangle connectors, we have a tri-glide, we have clips, we have the 3 different sorts of interfacing, so woven fusible, foam interfacing, and fusible fleece interfacing. The foam is not fusible. You can buy fusible foam. I would avoid it at all costs. Personal preference, but I don't like it. It makes your fabric wrinkle. And if you're anything like me, I don't need any extra wrinkles, so I'm not going to add wrinkles to anything that I make either. I think those are the essentials. Obviously, you're going to need the ordinary things that you would normally have: a pair of decent scissors, perhaps some fabric glue, pinking shears are useful. Just trying to think off the top of my head, anything else. A rotary cutter and ruler, and I love my rotary cutter, and a chalk marker or a Fix-On pen. I prefer a chalk marker. I'm not trusting Fix-On pens particularly to come off when they say they're going to, or they come off and then they come back again when things get cold, and that's worrying. So chalk markers I like, and I just use you can see it's just a chalk wheel, that's the one, and then it just rubs off. So I think that's my best thing of sort of essential bag making stuff, and you'll find the suppliers list at the top of the page. Go shopping, ladies, go and have a look and see what's about. But say my best advice is do avoid wish.com.